Hello everyone, welcome to the course on Unix programming. Unix is considered to be the registered trademark of the Open Group, and you see the trademark motto, live free or die. Now let us begin with the discussion on Unix programming, but before we venture into the technical aspect of what exactly Unix is all about, let us first try to understand or probably have a slight overview or a brush up on what exactly you mean by operating system. Now, as you all know, an operating system is basically a set of program that manages computer hardware resources and provide common services for application software. The operating system is a vital component of system software in the computer system. Application programs require an operating system which are usually separate program, but it can be combined in simple systems. Now that is a block schematic of how exactly the operating system looks like. At the bottommost, you have hardware, and then on the top of hardware, you have operating system, and then you have application softwares, and then the programmer or the user who actually work on these type of applications. Let us have a look at various functions of operating system, and different functions of operating system I have just put in this particular so-called block diagram. There are a couple of functions of operating system, out of which the first one is what is called as memory management. Then you have resource management, security management, command interpreter, file management, and IO management. Just a quick glance about all these functions of operating system. The first one is memory management. Now, this particular memory management is the process of controlling and coordinating the computer memory, assigning it as blocks to various to optimize the overall performance of the system. Now, this memory management is the most important function of any operating system, which basically lands up managing the primary memory. And apart from that, it also helps process to move back and forward between the so-called main memory and the execution of the disk. The second one is resource management. Now, internally, an operating system acts as a manager of resources of the computer system, which involves processor, memory, files, IO devices. And as a role in resource management, the operating system basically keeps track of the status of each resource and decides who actually should get a resource, and not only who gets the resource, but for how long and when. And in system that basically supports concurrent execution of the programming or the program, the operating system resolves conflicting requests for resources that preserves system integrity. The third function of operating system is security management. There are numerous security threats to our computer or probably to our system. In particular, various types of malware, which is actually short for malicious software. In fact, the operating system of a computer has built-in tools, in fact, enormous number of built-in tools to basically protect against these type of security threats. And one of the most common ways to get a computer virus sometimes is by email. That's why we always say that, if you are not aware of the sender who has actually sent you a mail, it is always better not to open such type of mails. It's always good to select and delete such type of mails which has come from unknown person or unknown user. While operating system has number of built-in security tools, sometimes we need additional software to set up the best protection, particularly against these type of viruses. And one of the best ways to go for password management, because I always feel that without the password, someone else will not be able to get access to the software applications and files, which basically you would have taken a lot of efforts to develop over a period of time, and that is available in your system. The fourth one is command interpreter. Command interpreter is that part of computer operating system that understands and executes the commands that are entered interactively by a human being. And in some operating systems, the command interpreter is called as shell. And as a matter of fact, in Unix operating system, this particular command interpreter is also called as and when we progress down the line, we are going to see quite good number of commands that is supported by Unix operating system. Now, apart from this, a command interpreter is a program that actually reads the instructions given by the user, and it then translates these type of instructions into the context of the operating system, followed by the execution. The next function of operating system is called as file management. File management is actually considered to be one of the basic and most important feature of operating system, where the OS is actually used to manage files. And all these files, which are managed by the operating system, they actually have different types of extensions. You know, if you would have done C programming prior to coming to this particular semester, every C program basically has an extension as .c, right? And you all know that file is actually a collection of specific information which is stored in the memory. And file management is defined as the process of manipulating the files in the computer system, right? And apart from all these things, there are quite good number of tasks that are actually performed by the file management. Let us not go into the details of it as of now. And the last function of operating system is IO management, which is called as input-output management. In computing, IO refers actually to the communication processing system. We normally call it as a computer, and probably the outside world, particularly a human being, or an information processing system itself, we can say. Inputs are actually the signals or data received by the system, and this particular IO is basically meant to perform input or output operations, and the devices are used by either a person or some other system in order to carry out effective communication. So this is a brief overview about different functions of operating system. Now let us venture into what exactly is Unix operating system. Now, born in the dark and somber portals of Bell Labs, it was a dream that one man nurtured and cherished. Like a parent, he reared the infant with compassion and zeal. And as the fledgling grew and spread its wings, it caught the attention of the world. What had begun as a sequel to the failure of Multics became a force to reckon with in the modern world. The scholars raved, the universities were bowled over, and a golden chapter began in the annals of multi-user computing. Unix had actually arrived. What is Unix? Unix, once it was referred to a very specific operating system, but if it is not a single operating system, but rather a family of closely related operating systems. Now, when I say family of closely related operating systems, I'm indirectly telling you about the variants of Unix. And there are different variants of Unix, particularly open source. You have Linux, you have Fedora, you have Ubuntu, you have Knoppix. These different operating systems are actually known as variants. That means they are Unix-like operating systems. Understand? And all the of enabling technologies that were actually or originally, if I say, they were originally developed in 1970s at AT&T Bell Laboratories and of California in Berkeley. But if you look at all these variants of Unix, each variant has actually its own peculiarities and differ from other variants, particularly in the kernel aspect, in inner code aspect, and also in some of the specialized features. Now, why is Unix important? In fact, the birth of Unix took place way back in 1969. C programming language was invented in 1970 by Dennis Ritchie, and Unix was actually available before C came into existence. That was in 1969. So it is more than 4 decades, right? Or I should say almost 5 decades. The operating system, which is known as Unix, has evolved into powerful, flexible, and versatile operating system. The different variants of Unix conform to the variety of standards, and they are all closely related. And Unix, as it is implemented in many variants for all types of computers, whether it is a personal computer or engineering workstations, multi-user microcomputers, mainframes, and even supercomputers, correct? The number of computers running a variant of Unix has grown explosively, with more than 45 to 50 million computers running variant of Unix across 400 million people around the globe. And that's what, if I'm right, I could recollect the statistics. Now, what is Unix actually good for? There's one of the questions that always comes in my mind is, what is Unix good for? And majority of them find it difficult to basically give answer to these type of questions. Unix is often used for scientific research and also in highly technical fields. But Unix is also meant for carrying out certain other applications or probably certain other tasks. For example, you'll be surprised that Unix offers precision math and graphics, and therefore it's a favorite of the film industry. In fact, Unix was used to generate eye-popping special effects in all the films like Jurassic Park, The Mask, Toy Story. Uh, if you are aware about um, the creator of Star Wars, George Lucas, who was also a big Unix fan. And if I try to recollect, interviewers often ask Lucas why he chooses Silicon Graphics Unix machines over cheaper hardware and software. His answer is simple. He has enjoyed exceptional success with Unix, so why should he switch? I mean, what an amazing answer. Beyond the film industry, Unix is also used for statistical analysis, aeronautics design, astrophysics, artificial intelligence, war simulation, medical imaging, global positioning, and even satellite tracking. Unix, I always feel, is good for any task that demands precision computing. No operating system is more suited for these type of purposes. What do you mean by getting the bugs out actually? If I ask you a simple question, how many Unix boxes does it take to create an align insect race? If you ask Tippett, Tippett Studio, let me spell it out, Tippett, Tippett Studio, the company that provided special effects for Starship Trooper. They reportedly used 130 Silicon Graphics workstations. Compare that with 400 workstations that Digital Domain used to sink the Titanic. Amazingly, 100 of those machines were running Linux which is actually a free version of Unix. So what are the advantages of using Unix? It's extremely important for us to know what are advantages of Unix. One of the major advantage is you can reduce your total cost of ownership, which is actually shortly abbreviated as TCO. Now this TCO is the total amount of computer will cost you in your lifetime. In the world of Unix, things works a little differently. For the most part of the Unix world, big Unix customers are actually none other than the government, internet service providers, and these people, they don't like the concept of upgrading the game, or upgrade game we call it as. When they purchase an operating system, they want that operating system to change as little as possible. Hence, Unix vendors generally ensure stability, and not only stability, they also ensure longevity in their product lines. And this basically leads to the cost savings for the customers. Apart from this, Unix can also perform most tasks with fewer resources when you compare with other operating systems. For example, if you want to establish a mail server on your office network, you can throw Unix on an old 486 with 8 MB RAM, as compared to Windows NT won't even install on a machine with less than probably 12 MB of RAM. And let me also tell one more point about Unix before I continue with the next aspect. The Unix community has always been a little bit radical, in the sense it has a long-standing history of taking commercial applications and making free clones. So if you look at the vast world of internet, you can gain access to literally thousands of free programs that perform well, or probably I feel sometimes it performs better than the commercial applications. Now, when you talk about commercial applications, what are these actually? These commercial applications includes Microsoft Word, WordPerfect, CorelDRAW. It also includes Adobe Photoshop, and it also includes Microsoft Internet Explorer, apart from, I can say, Netscape Navigator and Communicator. In fact, the new innovation which came from Sun Microsystems, that is a Java programming language, is actually helping to close the operating system gap. In fact, developers have written applications in Java that actually runs on all platforms. Let us have a look at the history of Unix operating system, what we call it as the birth of Unix. Unix had modest beginning in the austere premises of AT&T Bell Laboratories, that is American Telephonic and Telegraphic, which is a joint venture of three organizations: the Bell Laboratories itself, General Electric, and Massachusetts Institute of Technology, way back in 1965, which led two great scientists, Dennis Ritchie and Ken Thompson, to develop a system. As you all know, Dennis Ritchie is the founder of C programming language, and at that time in close to 1970s, they were working as system software engineer in Bell Laboratories. Now, Dennis Ritchie came out with this concept of Multics, which stands for Multiplexed Information and Computing Service. And in 1969, Ken Thompson wrote a game for General Electric computer called Space Travel. It was costly, hence he rewrote to run on Space DEC PDP-7 machine, which stands for Digital Equipment Corporation Programmed Data Processor. This DEC PDP-7 could support two simultaneous users, and that's the reason it was humorously called as UNIX, UNICS, Uniplexed Information and Computing System, which was slightly changed to Unix, UNIX, in 1970, and that is the birth of Unix. To casual user, it is very simple and easy to use. But let me also tell you, for experienced user, It is the most powerful operating system with certain elegance which makes it popular across the globe. There you have Bell Laboratories headquarters in Murray Hills, and these are the people behind Unix operating system, Ken Thompson and Dennis Ritchie. In fact, in 1973, the the Unix was first time totally rewritten in C, because when Unix was introduced, it was available in the form of low-level language, but with the introduction of C in 1972, these scientists decided that they will rewrite the entire kernel of Unix operating system for the first time in the form of high-level language. And hence, by 1973, 95% of Unix was actually rewritten in C. Now that's the PDP-7 machine. It was actually a mini computer which was used for space travel game, and also it was considered to be the test bed for Thomson's idea about operating system design. That's PDP-11 for you in 1972. You can see Ken Thompson sitting and working on the machine, and Dennis Ritchie with a beautiful smile on his face standing next to Thompson, just trying to figure out what exactly Ken Thompson is doing. Both Thompson and Dennis Ritchie receiving an award from the the former president of the United States, Bill Clinton. The people behind the success of Unix. First and the foremost person is Richard Stallman. He's the founder of the open source movement. One of his famous quote is, "If programmers deserve to be rewarded for creating innovative programs, by the same token, they deserve to be punished if they restrict the use of these programs." Right? In fact, by the time when Mozilla was released in 1998, if I'm right, or probably 97, the hacker community could best be analyzed as a loose collection of fractions, which actually included Richard Stallman's free software, right? And Stallman's free software movement dates back to 1980s, correct? It basically ranks among the senior tribes, both on historical contribution and as the maintainer of several of the software tools which was used on a day-to-day basis. Another person behind, the founder of Linux, Linus Torvalds, and his famous quote is, "If Microsoft ever does applications for Linux, it means I have won." In fact, after 1995 or 1996, Linux actually acquired a special role as both the unifying platform for most of the community's other software. In fact, Linux showed a corresponding tendency, and the hacker culture as a whole began to draw together, push Linux and the development model as far as it can be done. Let us have a look at what is open source. Open source is a software whose source code is available for modification or enhancement by anyone. Source code is the part of the software that most computer users don't ever see. It's the code computer programmers can manipulate to actually see or to change how a piece of software or a program or an application actually works. Programmers who have access to computer programs' source code can improve that program by adding features or fixing parts that don't always work correctly. It means that anyone should be able to modify the source code to basically suit his or her own needs. In fact, the open source movement is on the verge of winning its bid, to define the computing infrastructure, the entire globe. Why actually people prefer open source? In fact, there are a couple of reasons why people prefer open source. Users who are not programmers also benefit from open source software because they can use this software for any purpose. Others like open software because it helps them become better programmers. And sometimes people also prefer open source software because they consider it to be more secure than anybody else. And apart from security, it is also considered to be the stable than proprietary software. And you also have freedom with open source software, where it gives unbeatable and innovative softwares. There are countless developers who are working on open source. The reason is it also gives you quality. And apart from freedom and quality, open source also gives flexibility, right? When the user actually uses the platform softwares like Microsoft Windows or Microsoft Office, they are actually required to keep upgrading both the softwares. And apart from flexibility, it also gives you security, because open source is a big community like Red Hat Security Response Team and many other larger projects like Apache or Mozilla. They have their own security responses. And the benefit of using an open source Linux distribution is that security features are very impressive with Linux firewall options. So there are quite good number of reasons, why people prefer open source. Let me give you a quick run through the 10 core principles of open source. Software must be free to redistribute. The program must include source code. The license must allow people to experiment with and redistribute modifications. Users have a right to know who is responsible for the software they are using. There should be no discrimination against any person or group. The license must not restrict anyone from making use of the program in a specific field. No one should need to acquire an additional license to use or redistribute the program. The license must not be specific to a product. The license must not restrict other software. And the last core principle is the license must be technology neutral. What is Ubuntu? Ubuntu is a Debian-based Linux operating system and distribution for PC, smartphones, and network servers. It is based on free software and named after the Southern African philosophy of Ubuntu, an ancient African word which means humanity to others. Ubuntu. Ubuntu. The belief in a universal bond of sharing that connects all humanity. Development of Ubuntu is led by UK-based Canonical Limited, a company owned by South African entrepreneur Mark Shuttleworth. Canonical generates revenue through the sale of technical support and other services related to Ubuntu. The Ubuntu operating system brings the spirit of Ubuntu to the world of computers. Humanity to others. Where it all began. Linux was already established as an enterprise server platform way back in 2004, but free software was not a part of everyday life for most of the computer users. And that's why Mark Shuttleworth gathered a small team of developers from one of the most established Linux projects, that is Debian, and set out to create an easy to use Linux desktop, what we call it as Ubuntu. The version for Ubuntu is part social and part economic, that is free software available to everybody on the same terms and funded through a portfolio of services provided by Canonical. Let me conclude this introduction to Unix with a philosophy which I feel a philosophy of Unix can be put in one line, that is KISS. keep it simple, stupid. Now, attitude matters a lot because I always keep telling that you lift your attitude and you lift your life. And same thing holds good for Unix operating system as well. To do the Unix philosophy right, you have to be loyal to the excellence. What I mean is, you have to believe that software design is worth all that intelligence, creativity, and a passion that somebody can master. You have to value your own time. You should never waste it in order to do the philosophy of Unix right. If someone has already solved a problem, my suggestion is don't let pride or probably politics suck you into solving it second time. And never work harder than you have, because in today's context, success does not come with hard work, it actually comes with smart work. And while doing the smart work, you actually land up saving the extra amount of time that you spend. So the bottom line is lean on your tools and automate everything that you can, right? And that's why I said attitude matters, because to do the Unix philosophy right, you need to have, or probably you need to recover that attitude. You need to care. You need to play. You need to be willing to explore. So that's all about introduction to operating system. Let's take a break now, and then I will see you in the next session where we are going to discuss about Unix environment.